There he is.
All right. Okay. Yep, there he is. Hey, Clay, how are you?
I'm doing well, everybody. How are you guys?
Good.
Give me just a second here.
Yeah, no problem. There you are.
Sorry, guys, y'all there?
Yep.
Good.
We'll give people another.
Going on. Give me a second.
We'll give people another 30 seconds here, and then I'll introduce you, Clay.
Cool.
Okay, Allison, we are recording. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got, we're going to keep this short today, guys, but I wanted to, it was actually Allison and I's idea to bring on somebody who, first of all, I know and respect, who is out there doing deals every single day, every single week. Somebody who's got a legitimate professional business in place and who is really navigating what's happening right now in an intelligent way. And so I asked Clay if he'd be willing to step in with us and just kind of tell us what they're doing there in his market and what's working for them, what's not. So Clay, welcome to the party here. Everyone, Clay's got a company. They do residential projects. They have a residential portfolio of rentals as well. They also do commercial projects. They also have a commercial portfolio also, right? So they're developing projects from the ground up, buying dirt, going through that process with the municipality that they're local to, but also doing what most of us are doing here as well, which is flipping houses, wholesaling property. They have a really good, robust team of at least 8 or 10 people, I believe, and we'll get to that. We'll have Clay tell us in his own words a little bit more about his company. But anyway, welcome, Clay, and looking forward to talking with you about this here today.
Nickel, Allison, appreciate you guys having me. It's a pleasure. Good to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you guys got started, how you and your brother Evan got started investing, and where has that led to today? So just give us a brief kind of timeline and what the progression has looked like for you.
Yeah, man. I guess I'll begin by saying we started in real estate exclusively because I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 17. Accident, right? So completely out of happenstance, fell into real estate. When I graduated school with $80,000 student loan debt, decided to buy my first rental in all my infinite wisdom, right? So I had like $9,000 in the bank, put down like $8,000 on some little shitbox house, and always wanted to be the landlord on the beach that kind of sipped Mai Tais and didn't have to work for a living. So anyway, 1 turned to 10, turned to 50 before 2-3 years, and by way of growing our portfolio, it was getting tougher to find stuff on the MLS. And so we just decided to start sending these postcards out to attract deals into our pipeline to buy, right? To add to our rental portfolio. And quickly kind of realized that there's a market demand for underpriced assets where I could make, 10, 20 grand in a matter of days versus holding on to them for several years. So we pivoted business models probably 3-4 years ago, and wholesaling is 90% of what we do now.
Gotcha. I might not have been aware of that. So how much how did that impact you as far as like shifting away from doing as many flip type properties, right? Where you're holding them, you've got more capital invested, to focusing more on wholesale. How has that really directly impacted your business? And more recently, how would you say that's allowed you to kind of weather the storm that we're all going through right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it certainly has added, first and foremost, you're not getting the big drips. You're not getting the big chunks of money that flips provide. we were flipping a year in 18 and 19. Not to say we lost money or anything, but I was just getting pumped out by the things I couldn't control. You said municipalities, and that word gives me like goosebumps at this point. Can't stand them. So we kind of pivoted just so we could control more of it and really build a business around it more. We are really good at broadcasting for buyers, and we realize that our strength is not in, granite countertops and, onyx, whatever, right? It's in navigating discounted assets to buyers. So it's been a simple process. We weren't, we didn't have huge, employee count or W-2 in flipping, but we're really good at lead gen and we're really good at finding buyers. So why try and overcomplicate things?
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's one thing that I've seen. It seems to be a recurring theme from people that are well-heeled and more experienced in this business that they're focusing on right now. It's something that you've always done. Tell us a little bit about how you are going out there finding your buyers, and a little bit about your disposition process that helps you maximize the amount of money that you're getting for each property that you're wholesaling.
Yeah, I think I'll answer it by more of a straight yes. Sorry, Jason, it's telling me my internet's. Can you hear me okay?
You sound pretty good. You're a little hollow, but it sounds fine now.
Okay. In our disposition world, we are really good about just putting ourselves out there. So many people are scared to talk about what they do, whether it's social media or in different Syria clubs or whatever that are out there. So we are super good about talking about it. Let's have an open conversation about why your investment in your ETF 401k sucks and why this rental property thing is a better bet for you. So we're just really aggressive about it. And there are tons of ways to do it. You can go out and pull your stuff from your MLS. You can go find cash buyers and skip trace them through Sherpa's LLC skip trace platform, which is kick-ass. There are tons of ways to do it, but I think number one thing we've done well is be consistent in always be talking about it and be putting yourself out there. Back in 2018, we were selling 70% of our deals to funds and institutional buyers, and it sounds sexy to talk about it, but today we're probably selling 80-90% of what we do to mom and pops who will pay top dollar versus some big hedge fund. So it's just so many people put a focus, Sherpa, right? So many people put a focus on lead gen and sales and then just happen to find a buyer. And if you don't give it equal weight, you're gonna get fat in one of the areas of your business.
How many, if you're willing to share this, how many buyers would you say are on your buyers list in total versus how many people are you selling? How many different people are you selling to across the course of the year? For example, some people will say, well, you only really need 2 or 3 good buyers because they'll take everything that you got. So you don't need a huge buyers list. Whereas other people will say, another frame of thought is really you need to just look at people who are just buying onesie twosies here and there because they're willing to pay more for those same properties. And the people who you're selling dozens of properties to are going to start to get entitled and want to get those same properties for less than what other people are willing to pay you for them. So tell the group a little bit about, what's your cross section of buyers look like?
Yeah. So I think buyers across our board, you want to talk about our database, probably encompasses, let's call it 7,000 people. It's a pretty robust group of people. Of 7,000, we're typically getting a response rate like less than 10, right? Less than 1. So you got like roughly 70%, 1% of people, 70 folks getting back to us on anything. If we send something out, it's not uncommon to get amongst calls, texts, emails, 70 people over the course of, let's call it a week, reaching out about that property. And again, it's just because we're always loading the pipe with new ones and keeping new people in there. So we did in the neighborhood of 200 and just shy of 250, I think it was 230 something wholesale deals in 19. And of those 240 deals or whatever it was, we sold 80% of those, 81%, to folks who either bought 1 or 2 properties all year. right? So we are strictly focusing on the onesie twosie folks because I don't like working with professionals. I'd rather sell a property to a dentist from Palo Alto than I would the professional house flipper here in the Midwest.
Yep, that makes sense. So what has changed then from what you guys were doing in 19 to what you're doing now? What have you done that has specifically addressed the impact that that the shutdown has had across your market?
Yeah, I mean, maybe our biggest change has been more concentrated, focused lead gen. Our biggest change has been, I've told you, a couple other guys, that I'm a machine gun dude. You know, load up the machine gun and just spray, baby. Just have at it. And we've kind of pivoted more to a sniper rifle approach, just where that intensity behind that lead gen costs a lot of money. And it's not a bad thing when you can buy anything and sell anything really quick. But when you've got buyers who are dependent on lenders and you've got, you know, sellers who are kind of scared of the whole situation, you almost have to make a more targeted approach. So I wouldn't say we've backed down from marketing compared to 2019 with all this going on. I just think we've kind of changed the tools we use in order to get the same results, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you got to be more strategic. Look at where your dollars are being spent and how the ROI is coming back to you. That's common sense. But what would you say has been? And if it's not, I actually hope that it's not Sherpa, right? I mean, what are some other marketing channels that you can talk about that have been effective for you that maybe some of the people in this group have not thought about recently?
Yeah, well, a couple of different things. What we've really been big on the last, 2 years or so has been cold calling. And that's a really big machine gun approach, if you will. So at one point we had 15 agents calling. We were doing, stupid, like 30,000 dials a day. It was a stupid amount of intensive lead gen. And so we've kind of backed that down to, instead of have 6, and the 6 agents are more targeted in the data that they are calling about. The message is more targeted. The agent, so we're getting a high rate out of that with people, but that's been a big thing. And also kind of going back to the basics. There's a great app that exists in the kind of the real estate wholesaling space called a Deal Machine. It's actually here at Indianapolis as well, that owns that product. Allows you to drive for dollars and skip trace and send mail right from the app. It's pretty unique. So spending time on things that got us here and focusing on the data that we're putting into that gun, if you will, has been this kind of moratorium on business as usual has given us a really unique opportunity to reevaluate what we do. And I would encourage your audience to really, in the next, whatever, call it a month that this thing's going on, take the moment to take a step back and really define in your KPIs and where your dollars are going to generate leads.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What objections are you seeing now? What new objections are you seeing now that your prospects are raising to your team through the various marketing channels that you're using, and how are you overcoming those?
One thing we're hearing, Jason, is that what's going on? We're kind of scared about it. We're just going to sit on the sidelines and wait. And this is like full-blown, like tax delinquent lists, pre-foreclosure. I mean, you name it, these people are all paying. And the number one way we've been able to overcome those objections is you look at any pendulum that swings one way, it's got to swing the other. Or one domino, whatever metaphor you want to use, one domino falls, the next one has to. And at some point, I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't know how severe it's going to be, but the real estate market will suffer as a consequence of the economic stuff going on. I think that's pretty fundamental. So our selling point has been, look, we can buy your house today, but even today we can't pay what we could have a month ago. I have no clue we're gonna be able to pay next month, but it's not gonna be as much as it is right now. So you can sell it today and get it done with, or risk a maybe for a lesser amount here in the next 60, 90 days. And at least that kind of re-exercises their mind and says, damn, maybe we should kind of rethink about this. So just being able to create some urgency in a situation that otherwise would not demand that.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. There's absolutely going to be a shift. It's strange kind of what's happening right now because of how it's been artificially depressed, right?
Right.
I do believe we're going to see a snapback, but the longer this thing goes on, the more impact it's going to have to the property owners that we're all marketing to, and so it's going to be interesting to see what happens over time. I think that's a very valid way to overcome those objections that you guys are seeing. What specific?
Submit to your audience, Nickel, is
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say something that's submit to your audience real quick is real estate wholesaling in a nutshell is real estate arbitrage, right? How are we creating arbitrage out of the market we're in right now? And there's an enormous amount of every day that are creating arbitrage, right? So if you're not sharpening your sword as far as overcoming these obstacles and really taking advantage of the arbitrage that exists in your market right now, I would encourage you to really think about how you're going to do that, not only now, but as this thing lengthens on for, whatever, a third quarter or whatever you want to call it. So it's a really unique opportunity.
Yep, I definitely agree there. Let's talk a little bit about what specific changes your company, you and your brother Evan decided to make in order to make sure that your business was going to remain viable long term, that you weren't over leveraged, things like this. The leverage piece of it is something that you have to kind of plan for in advance. But once you found out about the shutdowns that were taking place, I don't know specific to your market how much of an impact that had. I mean, in some markets like California, you weren't even supposed to leave your house, right? So,
Yeah.
what changes did you guys make that you said, okay, there's a shift happening here. We need to sit down, look at the business, and make some strategic moves or decisions here in order to make sure that things are going to be sustainable here, because we don't know how long this is going to last. So can you point to is there one or two things that you guys looked at and said, all right, we're going to make this change immediately right now, and here's what it has to be?
Yeah, I guess I'll begin by saying that you're used to the word leverage, and those who know me or those who don't, I don't believe in debt. I don't carry any personal debt. I don't have any business debt. It's just not something that me and my business has. And we've lost out on opportunities because of that, right? It's just something fundamental that we believe in. So looking at kind of an operational standpoint, looking at your expense load from the business, maybe our biggest change that we had was again, reevaluating the performers and the non-performers of the marketing. Direct mail has always been just a laggard when it comes to what's producing and what isn't over the course of the last 24 months. And it was a really great opportunity for us to find, it was an opportunity for us to say, hey, we'll either put this on pause or we'll cancel it for the time being. And so we've not been doing any direct mail since, I guess, mid-March. And that's a single campaign, $4,000 in revenue, and we just paused it, right? So that was the thing that we turned off. It also allowed us to kind of say, okay, you have these kind of subjective factors in your business too. For us, it's virtual assistants. They have a very defined role, but what they're accomplishing per se is not as tangible as some of the other parts of the business. So for what we did is pretty much say, let's find these subjective things, maybe make some cuts there and find other ways to plug that hole. So to sum it up, I guess, man, we identified replications, things that stood to be changed one way or the other, whether it was by me or by the market, and just cut them before things got too deep.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Big wins. What wins have you had during this time? What unexpected things have you uncovered, realized, come to find out after maybe peeling some of these layers back, that you were forced to take a more analytical look at marketing, or even just an unexpected deal maybe that you were able to put together in a time when you typically wouldn't expect to have that happening?
Yeah, I've got two, and I think number one is going to be the size of your deals. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. if you guys are not taking this exact opportunity to widen the spreads in your deals, you're making an enormous error in judgment. Our average deal size in Indianapolis is just north of $12,000 per deal, right? We've widened that over the last 45 days to like 18, 19.
You cut out. You cut
for the year, and that very.
You cut out there. So
Sorry.
You were at 12.
Can you hear me now?
You were at 12,000, and where did you guys bump that to?
12,000 went to this on March 15th, and as of May 1st, we're sitting right around 18, just shy of 19,000 on our average. So take the opportunity to talk to your sellers and educate them, right? Educate them on the fact that this is not getting better anytime soon. It's going to take a while to snap back, and it's up to you guys to build that rapport with your sellers. Number two, as far as wins, is we've spent a lot of time in our business within the P&L, right? Take a look at your profit loss statements for what you're doing and find that thing that doesn't make any sense. If you guys are overpaying for bad skip tracing, you guys need to be using Sherpa skip tracing. There's just no, there's no way around it. Evaluate your performance of your data. And we spent a lot of time analyzing profitability and what's going on, and it's made some really revealing things if shown profit loss statement for the last 45 days. So it's a really unique opportunity. I encourage you guys to take advantage of it.
Hey Clay, why don't you try turn off your video? That might help with the bandwidth issue. We're still kind of choppy a little bit. That might help if you just turn it off. We're going to wind it down here. I've just got one last question. So people who are backing down right now, I see this happen not just when times start to get a little weird or tough like this, but also at the end of the year, right? When you've got Thanksgiving coming up and then Christmas, right? People say, well, nobody's going to be doing any deals for the next month and a half, so I'm just going to take a break, right? And we'll be ready to go, hit the ground running when the new year rolls around, or when the market starts to snap back. What advice do you have for people who carry that mentality?
Well, I would answer it by saying that I'm a really big behavior guy. So I really like watching how people interact and how people spend their time. And for me, it's common sense. For me, doubling down, if you will, and that's maybe we haven't really doubled down, I guess, but being more pragmatic about your approach to Sherpa and cold calling just makes common sense because there are more people stuck at home, right? It's a combination of people stuck at home who are having trouble paying their mortgage. It's a perfect alignment of the stars for people in our industry. And I've heard that from people saying, I'm pulling back, I'm running for the hills. And I agree, you should be cautiously optimistic, right? Prepare yourself for the worst, but also realize that we are in the midst of a really unique opportunity. So my 2 cents would be, backing down would just be, frankly, an unintelligent financial move. But I think there's a lot of positive can come out of the situation if you make it that way.
Couldn't agree with you more. We're going to open it up for a couple of questions. Clay's got to bounce here in just a few minutes, but and we want to respect his time, but we've got time maybe for about 2 or 3 minutes worth of questions if anybody wants to chime in here. And Allison, I don't know if the chat is opened up for people to type messaging or not.
The chat is open, or people also have the option to unmute themselves if they do just want to kind of jump in. I do see the chat blinking. Dustin, why don't you actually unmute yourself and you can come on and ask your question.
Okay. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I just, for Clay, I was just wondering roughly how many SMSs are you sending per day? And same with the cold calls, like about how many do you have going out now to find the level of closes that you're looking for?
So in our maximum, we were at roughly 5,000 texts a day in Sherpa, and currently it's about 2,500, maybe a little bit less, 2,200, 2,500, somewhere in there. Cold calling is a lot bigger. We're probably looking at 6,000 outbound dials a day. That's roughly 30,000 a week, give or take.
Okay, and then if you don't mind, the second part to that question is, do you have any way you're going about it? Like, do you call the list first, and then the non-responders, do you then reach out through text, or are you just hitting it at the same time, or do you SMS first, and then if you don't get a response, give them a cold call, or how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and this is something that we recently changed in the COVID nonsense. We've found that when you text somebody first and kind of yeah, I know Jason, right? If I just call Jason out of the blue, he's a pretty busy guy. He's not going to pick up his phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I text Jason first and say, hey, I'm about to call you about your house on 123 Main Street, and then I follow it up with a call 5 minutes later, my response rate and connect rate goes way up. So we've been having a good success rate with Sherpa, sending a text real quick and then handing it off to our cold call list, bam, bam, and connections really succeed that way. That's a recent change for us, and it's paid dividends big time.
So if you don't mind me just asking then too, that you said you're sending a message and then calling just shortly after, is the message kind of entailing that you're about to call, or is it totally unrelated?
We're not through enough tests yet to really know what works best, to be perfectly transparent. What we've found is a kind of an ambiguous message saying, hey, I'm Clay, give me a few minutes and I've got something I'd like to share with you about your address at 123 Main Street. And that's just ambiguous enough to open someone's mind up. Is it good? Is it bad? What the hell's going on? And then or maybe they'll call you back right there, right? Then that's even better, you know? So again, we're just trying to utilize that platform as a means to get a cold message to a warm phone call. That's it.
Oh, awesome. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
And Phil also had a question. So Phil, let me unmute you here. Phil, are you there?
We'll have time for this question and then one more, and then Clay's got another engagement he's got to get to.
I got time, man. You're good.
Hey, yep, this is Phil. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I got little ones running around. I'll be quick. I just was asking, do you change your messaging and the text that you're sending out due to COVID and everything going on?
Me personally, I've not. I've heard that people have and had success with it, I suppose. Changing our messaging more often has been something we've done a lot of in the last month to 2 months, but that's really unrelated to COVID. It's more related to success rate with getting messages delivered. So have we changed it language specific to COVID? No. And should we? I don't know.
Let me jump in on that. I would caution everybody listening to directly reference COVID simply because of the filtering issues that we've already experienced up to this point. The carriers look at a direct reference to COVID or even keywords, things like loans, mortgage, as a way to prey on people, in a fraudulent way. Now, obviously, we know none of us are doing that, but the minute you start to use some of these keywords, there is a potential there for filtering to occur. And so we've actually worked hard to try and get these keywords cleared or whitelisted, but that's not a guarantee that it'll happen on every carrier. So I would say, as always, this is something I always tell you guys, as you know, test it and just see what's working, but use caution if you're going to use any direct reference to COVID. You can kind of beat around the bush a little bit or dance around, use language that infers or implies what's happening, but maybe be careful about using those direct keywords.
Great. So Gustavo also has his hand up. I'm going to unmute you now. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me, Clay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just had a question about the buyers that Clay was talking about, right? The ones or twosies that just buy 1 or 2 a year. Are you still having? I mean, are they still currently aggressively buying with the whole COVID thing, or are a lot of them backing up?
And Gustavo, to answer your question, yes, they are still buying.
Okay.
I think
What's the best? Go ahead.
My personal 2 cents, and I'm not here to argue politics with anybody, but I think a lot more people on the street don't think it's as big of an issue as the media frenzy is making it out to be. The more people I talk to, it's just a media creation, at least the panic behind the ordeal. So, I think they're still buying it. I think the best way for you to learn that is to bounce into your county records and pull a list of everyone who's purchased a house in the last, let's say, 30 days without a mortgage, without something being recorded on it. I mean, that right there is going to show you your cash buyers, and I think it would make a good place to start.
Okay, no, that'll work. That was going to be my next question, actually, on the best method to find them. Thank you.
Yep, I go to your county, your recorder's office or whatever you guys want to call it in your county. Pull a list of recently sold properties where a deed is transferred in the last 30 days, and maybe stack that list or whatever with make sure that there's been no mortgage recorded on that same record, and then you've got a cash buyer.
I'll post one way. I'll make a video on how to do this through ListSource that everybody can use. It's a pretty quick process, and I'll get that posted into the group here sometime today or tomorrow.
Cool. One more question, it looks like. Nick, I will unmute you now, I think.
Okay,
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well. Okay, Clay, awesome stuff, man. This has been huge value. I've got 2 quick questions and then one maybe longer question. So you seem to be a data guy like myself. How many texts to a deal does it take you, and how many calls to a deal? I know that differs by market, but just curious.
Yeah, so calls to a deal are going to be somewhere around 500. So pretty much what we use is just leave it at 500. That's pretty rough. And then as far as no, I'm sorry, I missed a zero. 5,000 calls per deal.
Okay.
5,000 calls per deal, and then roughly call it just shy of that, maybe 3,000, 4,000 texts per deal in Sherpa. So we're pulling roughly 2 deals per Sherpa a week, and another 3 or so a week with cold calling. Because we're spending a lot more money on cold calling, frankly.
You're spending more money on cold calling?
Yeah, it's more expensive. I mean, it's more labor intensive. I mean, I've got 6 agents and a manager behind it and all that other fun stuff.
Okay. And then are you paying people to text as well?
Yeah, correct. So I've got, I guess, formerly 2 W-2 employees in my office that were on Sherpa nonstop, and one recently got promoted, so he took another role within our company. So we've gone from 5,000 texts a day to 1.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
awesome.
Cool.
Okay, and then real quick, explain like your process. So like lead comes in via text, and then does that go out to your acquisitions immediately, and they take over all the follow-up and the appointments and contracts from there? Or does your acquisitions do some of the calling and the texting as well?
Yeah, so my acquisitions guys don't see any lead unless it's someone who's raised their hand, said they want to sell, and have determined that they are ready to sell today.
Oh.
Right. So they or what you call it the next week, or it's sometime in the near future. So
yeah.
Because I have someone in house, I don't want my sales closers to see every lead. Right.
Sure.
I got someone screening those. It's almost like a lead processor role.
Yeah.
And if they can sense a lack of urgency or I'll get around to it type style of vocation in their voice, then we're not even going to push that over to our sales guys. They have to have a demonstrated capacity and willingness to sell in the next, call it 30 days.
Wow. Okay. Love it. Well, man, I really appreciate it.
Sure.
We're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much, Clay. You've really brought a ton of value here to the group. We're going to get this posted in its own thread. And if anybody who still wants to ask a question didn't get their question answered, please just post it in the thread in the group, and we'll get to it. Okay. But thanks again, everybody, for showing up, and Clay, especially to you. I respect you both professionally and as a friend, and really thank you for your time today.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Later on.
Bye.